I had a near-death car accident. I kept hearing, don't go today. Cancel this trip. Don't go. And I wasn't listening to my intuition. That was a 60-mile-an-hour side collision. This man had basically called 911 and said, I need an ambulance here right now. There is going to be an accident. Not there was an accident, there is going to be. There was this being standing next to me, and it was one of the grays. The whole roof disappeared, and I was in the middle of some sort of a field. And I saw this huge starship, and it was like multicolored. I was driving down a 2-lane highway, getting ready to turn onto a main highway, and I started to brake. And as I hit the brake, something hit the gas. He had kicked me with 2,500 pounds of force, 5 feet high in the air, and I flew backward.
Even the accident that you had was also a plot from lower portions to actually end your life.
It's the lower angelic influence.
Andrea Elizabeth Walker, your book talks about those heavy moments that force us to stop looking outside, but actually invite us to go inside for answers. What is the big eye-opener waiting for us by the end of this podcast that's going to help navigate in current struggle?
You have to be in the present moment. You have to look at your life. You have to look at what's around you. You have to look at your surroundings. And you have to navigate, one, by listening to intuition, two, by listening to gut. And basically, it helps you to navigate your life in a manner that is, as things come at you, you are able to handle everything that comes without any kind of issues at all. No matter whatever happens to you or whatever comes your way, you're able to handle it calmly, smoothly, easily, and effortlessly.
What do we need to understand about the woman sitting here in front of us today from the perspective of the 5, 6, 7 years old that you used to be in order to really understand your journey?
I was born premature, 5 months premature with pneumonia, and I lived in an incubator. I kind of started off with some challenges. I was sick a lot, had bronchitis and pneumonia almost every year, but mostly we had a pretty happy childhood. We had horses. My grandfather had a really big 30,000 acre cattle ranch, and we were exposed to horses and livestock, cows and dogs and cats at a really young age. We were exposed to not a lot to TV, more like playing games and playing card games and spending time with our cousins and our family. So for the most part, I had a pretty happy childhood.
How were you introduced to spirituality?
I was always interested in the metaphysical from a young age. I used to have visions of probably past lives. At a pretty young age, I had some spiritual experiences I couldn't really explain. A friend of mine had committed suicide when I was 15 in high school. One day, I had this horse lamp in my bedroom, and it turned on in the middle of the night by itself. And I got flipped out, so I actually unplugged it, and it came back on again. What really opened up my spiritual path was 1999. September 21st, I had a near-death car accident. And that was basically a 60-mile-an-hour side collision. I was driving. I kept hearing, don't go today. Cancel this trip. Don't go. And I wasn't listening to my intuition. And the one thing I will say is you always listen to your intuition. If your intuition tells you to not do what you're supposed to do that day, you listen, because it's a protection. It's protection for you. So from this day forward, if I had plans in Tucson, I had plans to go grocery shopping, plans to do anything, and I got a strong gut intuition, like I feel it first, and then I'm told intuitively. I listen no matter what. I'll cancel everything. That accident was horrific. It changed my whole life.
Divinely guided wisdom. And the reason why I want to talk about this through the book is because at a certain moment, when it comes to your accident, you mention a man that apparently called before the accident happened. Can you tell me about that?
After the impact of the accident, I was told that there was a gentleman who was white-haired and was in an old RV, and he happened to have a satellite phone because the area where my car accident took place, there was no cell phone coverage. So you wouldn't have been able to use a cell phone to call. But I was told by the police department who was there interviewing me after the accident that this man had basically called 911 and said, I need an ambulance here right now. There is going to be an accident. Not there was an accident, there is going to be. And I truly believe that this man was an angel sent from God, from source, to protect me because it wasn't my time to go. And so thankfully, because of him, he had called 911. It would have taken at least 45 minutes for that ambulance to get there. Right after the accident, there was a road leading to a bunch of houses, and the wash that day was running. There had been a huge monsoon, and there was a flood in the wash, bank to bank, water running probably 20 feet across, maybe 4 or 5 feet deep, and nobody that was out there who lived there could get across. So there were probably 10 different people there. And one of them was an EMT. So there's no coincidences.
EMT stands for?
Emergency medical. It was the people that are in charge of ambulances when you have an ambulance come to you. The EMT is the paramedic.
How do you process what happened when you come back to yourself? Do you come back to yourself at the place of the accident itself, or is it later at the hospital? And when do you collect all this data to actually understand what truly happened?
Well, I mean, I don't think I could understand it after the accident. For one, I had a head injury. My arm was ripped open from the wrist all the way down just below a major artery, like millimeters away from a major artery.
Oh,
I was
wow.
in a great deal of pain. I was in a lot of pain. I was in a lot of shock. And I was surprised that I had even survived the accident. When I went back home several hours later after having CAT scans and my arm being sewn up by a plastic surgeon and two assistants in Tucson, I then started to come to terms with what had happened when I was by myself in my bedroom trying to figure out like what in the hell just did happen and why am I still alive? How did I survive something so horrific? Because it was really scary. And I think over time, while I was by myself, I had to come to terms with it because I had to move forward. I couldn't stay in a place of like absolutely freaked out and having panic attacks all the time, which I did have. I had to continue with my life. I had eventually to continue going back to work. I had to drive. I had to get into another car, which was scary as hell. And I had to like ground myself in and ask God on a daily basis to assist me and the angels to assist me in being strong enough and brave enough to continue my life. And then through having pain, I was allergic to all of the pain medications. So I couldn't take any of the codeine that they gave me for my arm. So I had to deal with massive amounts of pain every single day. And I think for a while, I kind of jumped out of my body. I think I was just above it, just so I wouldn't have to feel all the trauma. And I would function, but eventually within a year or so, I met a healer and I started to see that person and she kind of helped me get back into being present and being in the body and being in the present moment, being in the now and dealing with what was at my present in the present moment instead of trying to escape it. You know what I mean? Like for a while, it was absolute shock, like total PTSD. I was scared to drive every day. I was scared that something else was going to happen, but I knew on some level I had been seriously protected because I knew at the moment of that accident, if I had said, I want to go, I could have gone. And instead, I said, if I have a choice in this matter, I would like to stay here. I would like to do everything I'm supposed to do on this planet. I need assistance to do it. And I don't ever want to come back to the planet.
And you said this
but I don't
after the accident?
Out loud. At the accident, yes, out loud.
When you say at the accident, was it like on the moment it was happening or after?
Right after.
Okay. First of all, thank you because you shared so many important information that we are going to dive into in a minute. But before we do that, there are two things that I want you to maybe explain for the people that are not accustomed to that. First, you spoke about your intuition telling you not to go that day. How can someone make a difference between the intuition saying something to them for their highest good or a reflection that they've been lingering in a long time that is just coming? Maybe a negative thoughts. They listen to the thought telling them not to go where they're supposed to go. They're going to take it as it's just me being lazy. It's not my intuition. How can someone make the difference between those?
The intuition comes hard and fast. It is the very first thought that comes to mind. If you start to question it, then you're getting misinformation. So for me, I can't say anything for anyone else. When I'm in a lot of danger, since this car accident, I get a vision. I get a movie or a vision. It's either with my eyes open or my eyes closed, but it's clear enough. It shows me exactly what's going to happen if I proceed forward with what I'm being warned not to do. A lot of times you get a stomach ache. You feel sick to your stomach. So you have to pay attention to what your body is telling you. If you're not at a higher vibration, you may not be able to disseminate what is being given to you. But typically, if it's not your time to go, and you're being guided to not harm yourself or to stay safe, then you have spiritual assistance that is speaking to you in your ear, maybe giving you, if you're clairvoyant, giving you psychic information coming through. If you're clairaudient, maybe you're hearing it. I'm very visual, so I'm mostly given my information intuitively in either voice, like I hear a voice, or I get an image. So it's a matter of tuning in to what you are being told. If you listen, you are given more information. If you don't listen to that voice, eventually it stops talking to you. So it's a matter of like, I mean, obviously, if you like for me, when stuff comes in, like even as simple as getting on a horse that day, if I am being told don't do it, I listen. I just don't do it. Typically later on in the day, I figure out why I was told because something else happens. Sometimes when you're driving, for instance, you will be given information, go this route instead. If I listen, then I probably have avoided an accident. If I was, for instance, going to go somewhere and I'm delayed by 30 minutes, and then I come to find out that there had been a really big accident in the area, then I just missed another accident. So it's a matter of really tuning into the first voice that you hear, not the ego, but the voice. And it's typically comes in really fast. The more you listen and the more you take the advice, then it starts to become mainstream, where it comes in all the time.
In the previous conversation that I had with Kaya husband, she said the same thing, that often some people can have visions, others can hear stuff, others can be, clairvoyant. How long after the accident you met the healer?
After the accident, I went to Miraval, the spa in Tucson, and I went with my cousin for, I think, about 5 days in the summer. And there was a woman who did cranial sacral core synchronism. She worked with the Pleiadians and she was a medical intuitive. And I went and saw her there. And the experience with her was so profound. You have to understand, I was just beginning this path. So the experience with her was so profound that after that time at that spa, I made arrangements to see her once a month for the next 3 or 4 years. And she worked a lot on past lives, on clearing out past lives and experiences that were holding you back. And it was another introduction to helping me to open up my spiritual gifts and helping me to understand what was going on. And through her, we did what she called trauma unwinding.
What is that?
So there's a memory of everything in your body for whatever trauma you've had. And she was able to activate it so that I literally relived that car accident. And how I relived it was when they put oxygen on my mouth or on my nose. I could feel the oxygen coming through again. I could feel the lidocaine that the surgeon put into my arm to numb my arm so he could pull the glass out of my arm. I left my body a number of times, and this happened all while I was driving after the session. So I had to ground myself back in because I was driving. You can't be out of your body when you're driving. You just can't. Basically, I relived the entire accident over the next 24 hours in the form of my body remembering it, and I could feel it. And it was really interesting, but I had to keep telling myself, I'm releasing this energy. I no longer need to feel this or to remember it. I'm releasing it and letting it go. And at the same time, I had to continue to ground myself in because I was wanting to leave the body because I was reliving the accident again. And I didn't really want to, but in order to really 100% fully release it, I had to allow that energy to come through me, allow the memories to leave my cells and my body and go.
Was it painful, the act of relieving the accident?
No, it was just bringing up more trauma because I was like scared. It was bringing up I literally could taste the lidocaine on my tongue. Because it was used as a numbing agent, so I could taste that. I could feel the surgeon pulling glass out of my arm. I could feel the sutures being put into my arm. I could feel it was a trip. I could feel everything. Everything that had happened in the accident, my body was remembering it and releasing it.
It really seems like a trip, I have to be honest. What I'm picturing, it's like in one of those movies when someone went through something and then all of a sudden they maybe smell a scent that brings them back in there. And then eventually they just relieve the whole thing, and that's maybe how they see the face of maybe the person who caused the accident or whatever. But the reason why I brought again your experience with the healer is because you said she taught you how to be in the moment. What do you actually put into place that you saw that it's actually working for you when it's time for you to be in the now moment?
Well, for me, I ground myself in. So I visualize a grounding cord going in from my root chakra all the way into the ground to the center of the earth. I say it and then I visualize it. And then I also bring in a cord, a white cord from the heavens, from the sky, from source, down through my crown chakra, all the way down my spine, and shooting it directly into the middle of the earth. That's what I do.
The crown chakra, it's located where? Here? Where is it?
Right up here, right on top of your head.
Okay. Wow. What are the signals that led you to think, okay, it's time for me now to be in the present moment?
Well, in that case, it took me a long time to get used to being in the present moment because I had a lot of fear and a lot of post-traumatic stress and a lot of pain that I had to deal with and a lot of like, holy crap, like I survived this accident. Like, why did I survive this accident? And then plus all these spiritual experiences started happening to me and I couldn't explain them and I couldn't ask anybody because I think they probably would have had me committed because they were so crazy. So I mostly did it by myself. And I just would tell myself I would focus on now. Like I'd focus on something. Like say if I was driving, I would tell myself, I am driving right now and I'm focusing on driving. So it got to the point where I had to actually lead myself into being in the present moment because until you shut your mind off and you shut off the ego, it's really hard to be in the present moment because your brain is always going, okay, well, what about this? What about this? The same thing with meditation. You sometimes just have to say to yourself, I am meditating right now and I am focusing on my breath and I'm focusing on being in the present. Sometimes you just have to say the word, which helps you to get into the present until you get used to doing it. And so on a
Based on
daily
your
basis,
experience,
mostly,
how
I don't always do it, but when I feel like I'm out of body or I'm not really 100% in my body or not 100% paying attention, I ground myself in. I typically try and do it daily. And years ago, after the accident, I did do it daily. And I had read a bunch of books and they talked about what to do. I talked to a bunch of people. People would come from all over the world to come give me messages. So it's sort of like you develop practices that work for you. You develop things that you do that you need to do to keep you in the now, if that makes sense.
Of course it does. Based on your experience, because you mentioned the ego a few times already, and I just want our audience to get the best from this conversation. Based on your experience, how deep do you think the ego can impact or keep people stuck if they do not realize that, to a certain extent, it's actually one thing that is driving them astray from the life that they are really here to experience?
Well, the ego is always pretty much negative. The ego is always telling you, oh, you're fat or you're ugly or people don't like you or you're stupid or you're going to sound stupid. I mean, I had to shut my ego off on this one because this is the first podcast I've done. And part of me was like, oh, and I just told myself, if you set the intention of what you want to happen, you will have a good experience. You sometimes have to shut that voice off. It took me years to do it. Now I don't really hear it anymore. And if I hear it, I just basically tell it to shut up. And I focus on what I want to do, what I intend to do, and what I'm going to do, if that makes sense.
Of course it does. Do you just say shut up out loud or do you have something?
Yes, I do.
Listen, this is so recently I found myself when I have a thought that is not for my highest good, I end up saying out loud, I cancel it.
You can use whatever you need to help you to do what you need to do. And if it's going to be different things for different people. But for me, like I will say it out loud a lot of times. Like I will say, just, stop it. Just stop talking to me. Stop. And it took a long time because I was very insecure when I was a lot younger. Once you get to the point where you don't care what anyone else thinks about you and you know who you are, you love yourself, nobody can touch you. Nobody.
Yes, and the thing is, sometimes it can be misinterpreted as arrogance or anything, when usually you just reach a point where you know who you are and you know that no one else but you can.
Exactly. But you also, for years, I would sit in front of the mirror and I would tell myself, I love you and I do not require and I do not seek outside approval. Because outside approval can really screw you over. Like if you feel like you need someone's approval to live your life, let's say your parents or your friends or your husband or your boyfriend or anybody, the public, the general population. When you get to the point where you feel so secure with yourself, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, and you don't need other people's opinions. And if you get to that place, then you're a powerhouse.
I heavily recommend you to get this book. It's an amazing book. It's filled with a lot of experiences and it's also easy to read. Okay. So there's something that happens also 1 year after the accident when you had an encounter with an ET. Can you tell us about that incident?
I was living at the time, I was renting a house from my sister in Sonoyta, Arizona. And I woke up at, I want to say 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was kind of a late night, like it was maybe a full moon. And there was this being standing next to me and I flipped out. It was like, you see those, I want to say, if I had to take a guess, I would say it was one of the grays. It was maybe 4 feet tall. And it had black eyes and it was like bald. And I was like, holy shit, like, what is this? And the being said to me in my head, it said telepathically, be not afraid. I am not here to harm you. And I don't remember anything else past that. So I don't know if I was taken. I don't know what else, what happened. I wasn't scared after that, but I didn't, I don't remember anything else.
Yeah, I know in the book, you say after that episode, you stated that, okay, you didn't want it to happen anymore. So you had a mantra that you said out loud stating that you do not give your approval to be visited or taken anymore. Is it correct?
Right. Well, I had another experience in New Mexico. That's probably the one you're referring to. I had one after the accident, about a year after the accident with that one being. And then when I moved to New Mexico years later, I was living in Albuquerque and I was living in a one bedroom apartment it was a 2-story apartment. And that particular night I was laying in bed and it's like the whole roof disappeared and I was in the middle of some sort of a field and I saw this huge starship and it was like multicolored. It was probably 6 layers of rainbow colors and it was huge. And I thought to myself, oh, this is so cool. But it didn't occur to me that I was in an apartment with an apartment above me and that was suddenly gone. And I remember having a pain in my right side, like probably down where maybe your ovaries might be. And I got really thirsty all of a sudden. And I said to myself, I need to call 911. And the next thing I remember is I woke up at 9 o'clock the next morning and I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And I got up and I looked at that area and there was a small incision there.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, mother, seriously? Like, what is this? And I talked to my hairdresser at the time, and she had lived in New Mexico her whole life. And she'd said she'd been abducted by the Greys multiple times. And she said that for females, they take the eggs because they do experimentation with their species and humans. I don't know what they did, but I did state the intention after that. And I said it every day. I do not allow you to take me for any more experimentation. I do not allow you to do this ever again. And I would say in the name of God or in the name of, whatever, I command and demand that you do not ever take me again. Never. And it never.
Yeah, go ahead.
To my knowledge, it's not happened again. But because both times that it did happen, I was aware and then I wasn't aware. And then I just woke up like nothing happened.
It's funny that you mentioned your hairdresser because I was like, but to who do you even go to tell those stories? When those things happen, because we live in a society that has labeled everything that you've been talking about since the beginning of this conversation as crazy. Like if you want to have your fast ticket to a mental institute, just make sure to tell this type of stuff to people. So my question is, I know you had your spiritual awakening back in 1999, but in the meantime, when you go through all those things, now you already mentioned your hairdresser. To who do you share those things?
Well, so I've always known intuitively who I could talk to and who I couldn't talk to. I've always known. And so do people that are on a spiritual path. They too also know who they can talk to. It's just an innate feeling.
Indeed.
Because you wouldn't talk to, like I wouldn't tell my parents about this stuff. My mom did get the book, by the way, and she's never mentioned it. So I don't know if she's ever actually read it. She probably, most likely, she dismissed me as absolutely crazy.
Mom is like, my daughter went crazy and I'm never going to have that conversation with her.
So I think for me, like, I just know intuitively, like, it's almost like it's a nonverbal intuition. Like, I'm not hearing a voice telling me I can talk to this person. I just know. And there's people I know that I can't have the conversation with because they're not on this path. They don't understand and they wouldn't understand. It's just, I just think you just know innately. I think everyone that I've ever known that was spiritual in any way, shape, or form, and my hairdresser at the time in New Mexico was as well. And before I had ever had that experience, she had told me how she'd been abducted since she was a child. And I was like, really? Are you serious? And she goes, New Mexico is filled with the grays. I mean, they're filled with everything else too, because everything is everywhere. But I just think that she knew she could talk to me. I asked a lot of questions. So when this happened, I was like, that's the first person I went to.
Interesting. While you were talking, my mind actually went back to this person that I already had one amazing conversation with a few months ago. And the other day I was talking with him, and then at some point I asked him a question about what I should or shouldn't do. And as he was trying to answer to me, I remember that, oh, I have the yes and no technique, right? So I just said, oh no, it's fine. I forgot that I have this method that's going to help me to get the right answer. But I didn't expect him to be curious. So he became curious and asked me to teach him. So I said, okay, stand, close your eyes, relax your body, and I'll ask ask to be shown your yes. And I'm telling you, I saw in real time the resistance being born and installed in his body big time, to the point where he was standing and had his hand on his hips. And when I told him for the second time, you need to relax, he told me, no, I am better relaxed like this. And then I was like, I'm not in quantum matrix center here. You know, I mean, I'm with normal people here. I mean, people that are not on the path. And what I felt at that moment was that misalignment, because the signs were there at the beginning, even of when I started saying what I was saying. So it is true that intuitively we know, but me, sometimes I tend to still act as the joyful and enthusiastic person that I am, and I forget that I need to always tap into that connection between me and my spiritual self, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I will sometimes say things to people that are not on the path and are not awake, and the look on their face, it's total disbelief, and they get defensive right away. They cross their arms over their chest or over their stomach, and you can just tell. You can read people if you really pay attention. It's not like you're working hard to do it. You just allow spirit to come through you, and you can read them, and you can read them in a couple of seconds. You can see if they're open, if they give you eye contact, if they have their arms crossed across their stomach or something. They're uptight and they're not willing to listen. If they are giving you eye contact, they're open. Some people are not awake, but they have an interest, but they don't understand, and they're not at the highest vibration, so they're not going to hear you or understand. So over time, I've just kind of discovered, like, I don't talk to this stuff about my parents or my family. I don't tell them, because if somebody asks me a question, sure, I'll tell them, but I'm not going to give them the information, because one, I don't think they can hear it. They're at a different frequency. And two, I mean, that goes back to the, I don't need your approval. Like, if you are telling somebody something and you're wanting them to agree with you or to believe you, you're seeking outside approval. So I don't talk to people that aren't on this path. If I usually know. And I think a lot of the people that are on the path, they do know. They know intuitively. You know who your people are.
Yeah. But you see, this is something that I've been finding challenging personally. For example, when I see someone that's really close to me, like my big brother, who's been going through really, really challenging times. And because, like, my big brother and I, we used to FaceTime like 5-6 times per day all the time a few years ago. Like, often when he would have a girlfriend or I would have one or we would have one at the same time, they would often see the similarities between him and I. But came the moment when him and I, life made us go separately. We didn't speak for almost 2 years. And in that moment, I had my spiritual awakening. It's almost like I had to be completely away from the bond that we had to fully receive the information. And now, recently, when I saw what he was going through, and because I used to be on that side of life that he is, I understood that no one would be able to give him a fuck, like a rope, and for him to see it as a rope, right? And I also didn't know how to give the rope to him without the spiritual package, right? So at first I was like, oh my God, the other people that I tried, it didn't really end up well. And I don't want to create another situation with my brother. So luckily, because of the state that he was in, I just said, yo, if you had the opportunity to have a call with God, would you book it? And because he said yes, I was like, okay, here's the link. I paid it for him. And I said, okay, just go. Well, it was like a few months ago. He went, didn't get the information like you and I, we did. When the second you have the information, you're like, and then you see what I mean? But I'm still glad in a way that I did that, because now his awareness about his situation and his understanding about his creatorship is 1,000 times, if not more, greater than what it used to be. You know, when things are going bad and you have your finger ready to blame and say, it's you, it's this, it's her, it's because now I feel like his awareness is like, oh my God, it's all me, even if the actions are not coming. So what's your view on that? When someone is already on the spiritual path, see that they can help people, and how do you find that best way, that best middle to know how to navigate?
Well, so for starters, I don't try and talk to anyone in my family. I just lead by example. So as I start to shift, they start to shift. As you start to shift and grow and wake up and change, and your level of understanding starts to rise, then they will also shift. They may not shift to where you are because you're on a different path, but they do have a better awareness. They are more aware. And I try really hard not to. I will suggest what I do for me. And instead of trying to tell them what to do, I will say, this is what I do for me. And they can either take that information and use it, or they can take it and not use it, because you can't make them do anything. And if a lot of times, if you tell the person that's not on a path and not really open, they will become defensive right away. That's my experience. And so then you alienate them, and then you've created like a block between you and them. And then they either feel inferior or they feel like they don't know what you're talking about. A lot of times I will suggest the I Am Mantra book. I will say that I found this book and it's really beneficial. It's beneficial in healing illness, helping you to navigate through life and life's challenges. It really helps to manifest. With manifesting, I'll suggest things if I think they're open. But a lot of times I've in the past, actually more so present than nothing, than in the present, I'm noticing now more than ever that people are falling out of my life. Like people that used to talk to me and ask me questions about what they could do, they're not asking anymore.
Yes.
And I think it's because I've gone to a different level vibrationally, and they're not a match, and they can't really hear me. And I know that other people are coming in. I know that as a bunch of people fall away, a bunch of new people come in typically, and everything just works out in divine order. But it is a challenge, and you want to, as a human being, I think you want, like when you're happy and you're having a lot of success with something, you want to share it. But the bottom line is the majority of the population doesn't want to hear it. There's a lot of jealousy and envy, and they don't understand that they could have that too, that it's out there for everybody. And it's not just you. You're not just this special person that has these tools. The tools can work for every single person that you come in contact with, but they have to be open. And I feel like a lot of people want to take a pill. They want a pill to fix something. They want a pill to heal it. They want an instant gratification. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to implement new ideas. They don't want to do the cardio. They don't want to do the meditation or read the I Am Mantra book, which really just takes 10 minutes from beginning to end out loud. They don't want to eat healthy. They want to drink caffeine all day long. They want to drink alcohol in excess. They don't want to take care of their body, and they want to blame somebody else. They want to blame the doctor or the medication or their life or somebody else. They don't want to look at that really they're the one that created everything. And all you have to do is shift your thought and shift what you say to yourself. And that the biggest thing that took me a long time was to really understand that everything has happened in my life. I created it. Through conscious thoughts, unconscious thoughts, things I said to myself, things I thought about myself, situations where I didn't pay attention. I mean, I think I was living unconsciously for a long time, and I'm not doing that anymore. I am living my day consciously. Like if you say to yourself every single day when you wake up, which I do this every day, before I get out of bed, I run my entire day in my head out loud. I say what I have planned to do. And I say to myself, first off, I am going to have an amazing day today. Because when you say that, if shit hits the fan, and often in my world it does, that mitigates all of the issues. It mitigates everything in it. And I always say, I am going to have an amazing day today. And everything works out for my highest good. Everything. Because often there are challenges in your life. And it's not like you can be the victim once you're awake. When you realize that you are 100% in charge of manifesting and creating your life minute by minute. So if you're a creator, then why wouldn't you create from the time that you get out of bed or before you get out of bed? And you would basically state out loud what you expect to happen in your day. So the best thing to do that is to say, my day is going to be an amazing day. Everything is going to work out for my highest good today. And you know what? Everything does. Even if shit hits the fan, and I'm going to tell you, in my life, shit hits the fan a lot. I have 7 horses. I have potential for getting killed every single day. But if I say that, I get more intuition, more guidance, and typically things always work out for my highest good. I am either protected from an accident. I don't know. Everything just works out better because you're stating the intention that everything's going to be in your highest good. So the universe is then conspiring to assist. So you could tell somebody that's maybe not on this path, that they could start off with a simple phrase of, in the morning when they first get up, I am going to have an amazing day today. Everything's going to work out for me. Everything. And then see what happens. That's my recommendation.
Wow, Andrea, I wanna thank you. I really wanna thank you because for the last few minutes you've been on fire and I felt it in my heart. And you even proposed to me answers that I'm for the things that I'm currently going through. So I really, really, really wanna thank you for that. You said so many things, but before I ask you the question, I want to say how what you just said relate to my life. My spiritual awakening happened less than 2 years ago. Sometimes, even now that I'm having this podcast, I still feel like a baby. I still feel like, what do I even know about this thing? You know, like, okay, I read the books. I'm part of a community. I meditate, take my juice, multivitamin, mantra, all that. But still, sometimes I feel like a baby. And because I feel like that, when it comes to the people around me, I often feel like the other day I was talking to my wife and I said, yo, baby, today again, I felt like calling my friends. But I said, I realized they don't call me. But they don't call me because they have something against me. No, it's because the vibration is just not the same. So it's almost like they don't see me anymore, right? It's like they may see the video that I posted, but I don't. It's not like their mind is not anymore call Brice or ask Brice to see him, and it is something that I often still struggle with now because I find myself alone a lot, and sometimes I'm like, okay, let me just call for 1 minute, but then they don't pick up, and I'm like, okay, then I really shouldn't call. Or when I try to unlock my phone, it doesn't unlock itself. You see what I mean? So that's how everything that you just shared resonated with me, and that's why I thank you, because now I received information about how I am being invited to move in this space that I'm in now. The
And
question,
because you are a creator, you can ask the universe, please send me spiritual friends. Please send me friends that are on this path. And you know what? They will, because I've asked that over the years. I have, because you have to ask because of free will. You have to ask. They're not just going to do it. So you have to also be okay with being alone on this path. You do. It is lonely. I mean, I'm here day in and day out by myself with 7 horses and a puppy. So, and on 18 acres of land. Sometimes it's really weird, and other days I feel like really alone. And I'm not alone. We have guides and angels and ETs and all kinds of things with us, and source God.
source,
We're never alone.
never.
And as far as your friends go, they're not really your friends, your bosom buddies, your best friends, because they're not on the same frequency. They don't understand, and it is scary for them. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to trust that the people that are your people are going to find you.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. There's something that you mentioned previously that comes also a lot in your book. It's spiritual attacks. And after reading your book, I realized that even the accident that you had was also a plot from lower portions to actually end your life so that you wouldn't be able to do all the beautiful things that you're here to do. So what can you tell us about spiritual attacks from lower portions? How can we identify them? And also, how can one protect him or herself from those type of attacks?
Well, first off, the best way to protect yourself is to call in the Platinum Shield in book 4 of Elliot Eli Jackson's Sapiential Discourses book, Spiritual Warfare. That's the key. And also calling in the part in the book where it talks about how to protect your house, your space, calling in using sage, calling in white light, wearing black tourmaline, Herkimer diamond,
Those are
wearing
crystals, right?
crystals, yes. Gridding your house with cathedral crystals. I think it's 5. And then sealing it, stating the intention that nothing of a low vibration is allowed to come near you. I've tried sending them love and light. I feel like a lot of times I get a backlash from that, but I do it anyway.
What do you mean? What do you mean you get backlash from that?
I get attacked worse. When you're on a spiritual path, as Elliot and Source God talk about in the books, the more that you start to raise your vibration, a lot of supernatural things start happening that you really can't explain. Like I can explain, I have a Nespresso espresso coffee maker, and I have a frother. And the frother has a pretty strong seal on it. Don't even ask me how this can happen. So I'm making a latte this morning.
Yeah.
And the frother starts shooting milk out of it. I'm holding on to it. I'm holding on to the top, and still milk is coming everywhere. And stuff like that happens. I mean, it shouldn't happen. It doesn't really make sense, but things like that happen. Anything, I believe, any car accident, any death, like a lot of accidents, a lot of illnesses, a lot of suicides and murders are caused or influenced by the lower angelic. The lower angelic is everywhere. I mean, it's not like they're going to leave. They're here. They're here to stay, I think, unfortunately.
Cool.
So there are things you can do. I mean, I sage my house at least once a week, and I open up a door or window and I state the intention in the name of all there is, was, and ever shall be. I command and demand that all lower portions of source leave my house now. And I go into every room and I sage and I say that repeatedly. And then when I'm done, I say, so it is uttered, so it is done. And I shut the doors. Sometimes I sage myself if it's really bad. I always wear different crystals. I have a Herkimer diamond on my neck right now.
Oh, it's
I
beautiful.
have black tourmaline, Herkimer diamond, and copper. I use a lot of crystals. My horses, when I ride my horses, their bridles have been gridded with crystals. I have hundreds of crystals in my house. My land has been gridded. The barn is gridded. And when I say gridded, it's to keep lower vibrational energy out. I have Matthew Johnson's Meta Mirror. I have a bigger one hanging in the barn, and I program that to keep lower vibrational entities out and to have extra protection in the barn and on the property. You can just say as simply as possible, leave. Get out. I don't have time for you. Elliot said a long time ago, when he needs to send them away, he tells them he doesn't have time for them and they need to leave. You're the creator. If you're the creator, if you have the belief system that you are the creator of your reality, then whatever you say is what has to happen. And if you state the intention, like a lot of times when my coffee machine gets taken over or something really weird that really shouldn't happen and there's no explanation as to why it would happen, I state the intention, this is my house, and I command and demand that you get out. Sometimes I use some words that I'm not going to repeat on here. But I mean, I've had some crazy things happen. So a year ago, I bought a brand new Mercedes SUV. And I was driving down a 2-lane highway, getting ready to turn onto a main highway, and I started to brake. And as I hit the brake, something hit the gas. And I hit the brake, and I'm slammed down as far as the brake can go. And I'm not stopping. And the RPMs are shooting up as high as they can go. And something is hitting the gas at the same time as I'm hitting the brake. And I flipped out. And I mean, I freaked out because I'm going into a 2-lane a major highway. And thankfully no one's coming, but I had to make the turn at about 15 miles an hour because I couldn't stop the car. And I was so freaked out. And I have crystals in my car. I have a big piece of black tourmaline. I have a selenite. I have 2 pieces of each in the car, and they're really big. So I pulled up off the road, the next turn off, I pulled off and I asked God, what do I do? Like, I'm supposed to drive 40 minutes to Sierra Vista. What do I do? I'm so scared because I couldn't stop my car.
Wow.
And I called Mercedes, I called my dealer, and I'm like, what in the hell? And he goes, that's a problem I've never heard about. And I'm thinking to myself, it's because it's the lower angelic influence.
But how
right?
are you going to tell them?
I'm sure he thought I was crazy, but I have release oil by Young Living, which we also use. And I had that and I put it on the dashboard and I did a clearing right then and there. And I programmed the crystals to keep my car protected and keep me protected. And I heard in my head, just go slower, you're going to be fine. And it never happened again. But I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like I couldn't stop. The car wouldn't stop. So that was another attempt by the lower angelic to take me out again. You know, I mean, 2 years ago, my biggest horse, he was an Arabian gelding. He's about 17 hands tall and weighs about 2,500 pounds. I was cleaning a horse stall and I had a girl in the stall cleaning with me. Thank God she was there. And I had a plastic bag in hand, which I shouldn't have, but I did. I was sprinkling some stuff into the shavings that helped dry out the moisture. And he was eating. And the next thing I saw was all four of his feet went off the ground. And I said, shit. And the next thing I remember is I'm sitting on the ground up against the stall about 5 feet away. And I had been kicked. He had kicked me with 2,500 pounds of force on my upper thighs. And I survived that. I'm not dead, clearly, right?
Wow.
Yes, I have some back injuries. And yes, I swim every day to help that. But the girl told me, she said, when he kicked me, I was literally airborne about 5 feet high in the air. And I went and I flew backward and she stood behind me so I wouldn't hit my head on the steel wall. And I mean, it was a trip. So Source told me that lower vibrations took over my horse to destroy the trust in this horse because this horse was in another lifetime with me in Egypt. He was my lover in Egypt and I had a lot of trust in him and he was like a really cool horse. And they wanted to destroy my trust in men. So they took my horse and used him as a weapon against me. I mean, I could be dead right now. That was a huge impact. My legs were messed up for a long time. I mean, my left leg swelled up literally like this high above, it was huge and it was black and blue instantly. So there's a matter of your intuition. So you're listening and you're paying attention to your intuition and you really do have to listen. And then there's a matter of like thinking about all the different things that could happen. And that's what I do now. Before I go do anything with the horses or I go anywhere, I try and think about all the different scenarios that could happen and how could I mitigate? How could I stay safe? Even when I'm leading a horse, I try and think about like, what if they spook and they hit me from behind? So I stay away from them. If I'm doing something like yesterday, I was cleaning a stall and I opened up the gate and the gate has a latch and the latch hit me down near the groin really hard. So it bruised, you know what I mean? So there's different things that you have to do to pay attention. And the lower vibrations at all times and places, they want to hurt you. They want to cause damage. They want to cause accidents, insecurity. They want to just make your life difficult. I guess if the best way I could explain this is if you're on their radar, then you're doing something right. If you are constantly on their radar and they're trying to stop you from doing things, you know that you're on the right path, if that makes sense.
Of course it does. Honestly, I remember when I was done reading your book, I had the impression that my life was the coolest because the amount of stuff that you're sharing, the amount of experience, spiritual attacks that you've been a victim of is insane. But at the same time, it is preparing every seeker of light to know why they need to be protected by all the tools that Source is giving to us. Because LVs are checking us, the people that are here to help the masses. And I was really, really happy that you actually gave us this gift. But my question for you is, how do you live? Like, how do you still, what makes you going after all these things? Like being beaten by a 2,500-pound horse, all those things. What makes you be like the next day when you open your eyes, you're like, Andrea, let's go for another 24 hours.
Ever since I had my first appointment with Source in 2019, I knew without a doubt that I had met my people, that I was supposed to do this path. Everything they said resonated because the first year of the car accident, I literally couldn't explain what was happening. So the only thing I could do was read books. So I read something like 400 books the first year. So I know without a doubt that I came here to do what they said I came here to do.
400
and I
books.
know.
Sorry, I need to stop you here. Did you have a 9 to 5 at the time or were you reading in your sleep? How do you read because I bought 200 books in 1 year and a few months. but I haven't read all of them. So I'm really curious here. What are your tips?
Well, I can speed read. So I was doing that, but I was really like not anxious. I was really like needing information. So I was on this mission to learn as much as I could about what was happening. And the only way that I could do it was to read books. And I was reading books on psychic abilities and how to develop your psychic abilities and past life regressions and all kinds of stuff to try and understand what I was experiencing. And I wanted to know everything. And I think I was supposed to know everything so that I could help other people down the road. But it was just, I had a 9 to 5. I actually worked, I think, 2 different jobs. And I also did photography on the weekends. But I would read at night. I'd read every day. I had a job that I managed my parents' boutique hotel. So a lot of times I had a lot of free time and downtime. So I could read when I was there too, when I wasn't doing work in between clients coming in. But I just would read. It took me, I think, about a year to read those books. And I just read everything I could get my hands on. I did read all the Neil Donald Walsh books. I read those first, and the Conversations with God. I had just before I had my first appointment with Source back in 2019. I had on my iPad. I had downloaded every single channeled book you could actually have gotten your hands on. Everything from Mount Shasta to the Arcturians to the Pleiadians to different people. And I had gone through a period where I'd read like 19 books in about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And I was looking for another book to read. And Eliot's book first came up, Sapiential Discourses, Universal Wisdom. And I was like drawn to the book, but I couldn't tell, like he was familiar to me, really familiar. The eyes were familiar, but I couldn't tell like if it was like positive or negative. I ended up downloading the book, and as soon as I read it, I knew I needed to make an appointment with Source through Diane. And I think when I made my appointment, I told them, I said, I would like to wait 4 weeks before I do this appointment because I want to get all the books that Eliot had out, and I wanted to read them all. So I did speed reading to get all those books read so that I would have an understanding about what maybe my Source appointment might be like. And it was refreshing because those books encompass everything that I either knew and then made sense of everything I didn't know. It made sense and kind of connected all the dots of all the books I'd read over the years to everything I knew today or knew then. I just think that if you don't have the information at the time, like you can't talk to other people, then you can get it in a book. Somebody's experienced something. And I would graduate from different books where I thought they were like the end all, and then something else would come along. Like when the spirit is ready, the teacher arrives. And this would kind of happen with books. People would come in to that hotel that I managed for my parents. They would come in from all over the world and they would tell me, your spirit guide sent me to give you this message. And people would refer me to books, and I'd write it down, and I'd go to Barnes and Noble or get online and I'd order books. I think it was mostly Barnes and Noble I went to. And I would go into the store at the time and I would say to Spirit out loud, if I'm supposed to buy something here, please let me know. And when I lived in New Mexico for several years, that place was really profound. They had a lot of books and a lot of people were awakened on a spiritual path. And so I was able to really find some really interesting authors. And I would do the same thing. I would say, if I'm supposed to have something here, please let me know what I'm supposed to buy. And sometimes I'd walk out of that bookstore with like 5 or 6 books, and I would voraciously read those books. And then I would always have people that would come up to me and say, you do this, this, and this. How do you do this? And I would either refer the books or I would tell them what my experiences were. And I had kind of a following, if you will, like all of my life. And I didn't know why. Like I was just being me. I was just doing me, I thought. But I guess whatever I was doing, people were watching.
For the people that are not aware, when Andrea is talking about Elliot, Diane, and Source, so Elliot Eli Jackson is a channeler. He has the ability to channel 100% of pure source energy, that which we all call God. And he's also an author of so many books that we all read. And I highly recommend you to get any book that you can find from the man Elliot. You've been awakened for almost 30 years now. What are the information that you had to unlearn? Because like you said, you read books, you met other spiritual teachers, guides, and stuff like that. Can you pinpoint some stuff that you had to unlearn the second you started reading books like Conversation with God or any other books from Elliot?
Well, like, I'm not good enough. That was one of the things. I had to unlearn that you have to work really hard and you have to work a 9 to 5 and you have to work until like you die, basically, to have what you want. I had to really just stop listening to everybody. that's not awake. I had to really just tune them out and not get upset. I had to, source is always telling me, has told me multiple times to be the observer of every situation, to not take it personally, to observe yourself, observing other people, and observe yourself. So like you're sitting in a room, for instance, and you are present and you observe yourself observing what's going on. And you look at it like it's a play, because really it is. It's not real. It's a holographic universe, right? So I don't 100%, my mind can't 100% understand that, like how everything is a hologram, but yet we still have people, because I think we're bringing the people in our lives into our lives for different situations. But it's just having to get out of your head, for one thing, and not trying to overanalyze, because I have a tendency to do that, and trying to be in the present moment and letting things come to you instead of trying to make them happen. Allowing the universe to send to you what you're meant to have. But if you ask a bunch of questions and you allow fear to come in and you question the universe a lot, you put a hold on everything and things come in slower. I've had to work on that just recently, just as far as like not asking questions about anything really, and just allowing things to come through. And when you get yourself out of the way and you allow your life to come to you as it's supposed to, then you can enjoy being in the present moment and enjoy the ride.
In your book, you have a chapter called Creating as a Process. Now, we all know that in order to actually create the life that you want to experience, it is for your highest good to be at the higher vibration. So what would you share as a process now, as a creating process to someone who's looking to improve the quality of their life? What are the few things that you would recommend them to actually apply, to do, to say out loud in order to, start engaging in that process?
What I do on a daily basis to keep myself going and to keep myself focused, for starters, I must keep up my fourfold body. And what that means is to work on your emotional health, your spiritual health, your physical health, your mental health. And you would do that through having a regular cardio program, doing the source smoothie, taking a multivitamin and a D3, doing meditation with your eyes open for an hour a day, reading the I Am Mantra book out loud daily, consuming only 2 cups of caffeine a day, limiting sugar, limiting meat, eating maybe more vegetables, and telling yourself every morning, I'm going to have an amazing day today. Today is an amazing day. Everything works out in my highest good. I love my life. Stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. That's a big one.
This is something that I want to emphasize on everything that Andrea just shared. What she shared is not necessary for when you start, because often when we come across the information from source, all there is, was, and ever shall be, we tend to think, I must now do everything from the get-go. It's a journey. I always recommend to people, pick one thing and do it for less than 2 minutes when you start. Because the goal for you is to become the type of person that does all those things, but you cannot go from having 0 habits to install 5, 10, 20 in one day. You're going to crash, and you will end up being like, yeah, it's not working. So pick 1 or 2 and work on them for the next 2 weeks, for the next 4 weeks, and then see how you feel. Maybe the next thing that you need to apply now is meditation, but maybe based on where you are, meditation is too much asking from the level of vibration that you have now. Maybe it's just stating the I Am mantra out loud in front of the mirror, and then you go about the day. And the next week, you're going to keep the I Am mantra, and then you just start doing your jumping jacks for 2 minutes, exercising your body, knowing that after 2 months, after 3 months, you will be doing more than jumping jacks for 1 minute. That's a clarification that I want to bring, because I know for a fact, because it has been me, wanting to apply everything, falling down and start thinking, yeah, it doesn't work, it's not for me. No, it's for every human being, but it's a process. It's a journey. You have beautiful paintings of horses behind you. Before we actually discuss about the magnificent gifts that you have, I was wondering, what can we as humans learn from horses in order to live a better life or raise our vibration? You who spend daily moments with those beautiful animals.
One thing, you never, ever, ever go to a barn with horses when you are angry or mad or pissed off, because they mirror whatever is in your life, like whether it's stuff that's unconscious or stuff that's actually out there. If you are angry and you go to the barn and you go spend time with horses, they will display or exhibit anger back at you. So when I go there, I must be calm at all times, because they will mirror back to me what I am feeling. And so you just have to, because you'll get killed. They weigh 1,200 to 2,500 pounds or more. So you have to be careful. They're very loving and they're very intuitive, mine especially. And they can feel your feelings before you could. They can feel, I don't know, they can feel everything. I mean, when I ride one of my horses, I can talk to her in my head and tell her walk, trot, and canter in my head, not even out loud. And she does it because she hears me. So there's a really strong connection. I'm also a horse whisperer though. So maybe that makes me being able to understand them a little bit better. But it's a matter of, they're very loving and very kind, and they have healing energy, a lot of healing energy, because they love you with 100% love. They don't have any expectations of you. They're just in the present moment. They live in the now. They don't think about tomorrow or the next minute. They live right now.
I just learned a lot, especially on the first thing that you shared. And I was like, oh, it could be interesting for me and my family to maybe plan, something around horses and actually see, just learn a lot just by being next to them. I think that's going to be interesting, especially for my son.
And also, if you have any kind of fear and you ride a horse, they will exhibit that fear. They know, they can read your body language. They can read everything on how you hold the reins. If you hold them really tight, that's like fear. And so you got to be really calm, always calm.
Wow. Andrea, when it comes to your business, I know that you are a spiritual life coach. What are the other modalities that you offer?
I am a master hypnotist, a crystal surgeon, spiritual painter, Reiki master, tuning fork therapist, a master exorcist, although I haven't performed one of those yet. Well, I mean, I've assisted on some smaller ones.
For the people that are currently looking to work with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, which is www.purelightsheals.com. That's probably the best way.
I also know you offer beautiful paintings, like the one that you have behind you. I recognize your style.
So the one that's right behind me was given to me as a gift by Elliot. This other one I did paint.
Your guest, because that one I recognize your style. Is there a way for people, if they are interested in buying your paintings, can they also reach out to you?
They could reach out to me on that website privately, like on an email, and then I can go from there.
Andrea Elizabeth Walker, it was a pleasure and an honor to have such a beautiful conversation with you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. If you had one thing to share to our audience now, maybe it's a lesson, maybe it's an understanding, maybe it's a words of love that you want to share, what would it be?
Just know that you can do anything you want to. You are worthwhile. You play a purpose on this planet, and don't give up. And just maybe start off with standing in front of the mirror and saying, I love you. And that will change everything.